everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Everything is fine here on Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Mike, flying solo here today to talk all things Star Wars with all you fans out there. Get the business elements out of the way really quick. If you're listening to me right now, hit that subscribe button, like, follow, comment, rate, review, all the above. We greatly appreciate it. Any little thing you can do definitely helps get our channel's name out there amongst all the other Star Wars channels, which there are quite a few. Today, obviously, we're going to be talking more about Maul, so Shadow Lord, as the last two, the more recent episodes were just released earlier today, which is episode 7 and 8. So definitely looking into diving into those episodes. So spoiler tag, we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking spoilers. So if you haven't watched it yet, put it on pause, or put us on pause. Go watch those episodes and then come back and listen to what we have to say as we will react, or I will react and review those two episodes. Again, if you're listening to us, subscribe, because we will be giving a prize giveaway once we hit 200 subscribers. And we'll do a random little drawing thing. So make sure your name is public so I know what name to enter into the drawing. And then when we hit 500 subscribers, we will do a Theory Saber lightsaber giveaway. So you're not going to want to miss that. Those sabers are great, top notch, great for dueling, just, over the top greatness for those lightsabers. And, as Bogey has shown, he has his little plastic one he is willing to give away as well as a part of that prize. So, yeah, you're not going to want to miss that. Again, spoiler tag for this. So 2 episodes that we'll talk through are Chapter 7, Call to the Oblivion, and Chapter 8, The Creeping Fear, which, question of all, anyone listening, are these supposed to be chapters or episodes? Because I've kind of seen both. I think they're listed as chapters specifically, but all the conversation I see around them, it's episodes. Not that it matters much, but I just want to make sure I'm accurately reflecting what they are. So from my knowledge, they're chapters, so I will continue to call them that. Again, Chapter 7, Call to the Oblivion, and Chapter 8, The Creeping Fear. I think we're still continuing with how great this show is. Every time it's, there's a cliffhanger, it's captivating, wants you to want more. And it makes it really tough only having the short episodes, but thankfully 2 episodes each night. I don't know why they don't just combine them and make them a single episode, knowing that they're releasing 2 at each time. I don't know, maybe that was a later decision that they made just to fall into being able to release the finale for the season on May the 4th, or what. Either way, thankful that we're getting 2 episodes, because it's just, you want more after each watching. So even though, like I said, the show has been fantastic, every episode has been very good. I think that today's were not as great. Not to say that they were bad. Again, they were still very good. But I think those other episodes that we've gotten so far has just been so much more entertaining, so much more action and interesting. I think in this we do dive deep. Well, I know we dive deeper into the psyche of Maul, especially in Chapter 8. So that was extremely fascinating, just seeing some of what motivates him. I mean, we knew what motivated him, but we get to see that fear and anger grow even more to for pushing him to accomplish his mission, where we later see him in Rebels, even though by the time we get to Rebels, his focus has kind of shifted. So I think that kind of plants a little Easter egg, or plants a little foreshadowing in what's to happen. Just purely based off that, I'm speculating that he's going to get defeated pretty bad again, because his focus right now is Sidious, not Kenobi, even though we do see a little Kenobi. We get a little glimpse of Kenobi in Chapter 8, but when we find him in Rebels, he's seeking Kenobi specifically. So there has to be some sort of event that takes place that transitions that focus a little bit from Sidious to Kenobi. And it's probably like he encounters Vader or Sidious, gets his ass kicked, and he's like, okay, this is not something that I can accomplish on my own. So I'm going to lower the bar a little bit and go after Kenobi as my focus in Rebels. Excuse me. I still have a lingering cough, so apologize if I cough a little bit throughout this. So yeah, we get into the psyche of Maul some more in chapter 8. Both of these episodes, both these chapters were kind of just a long kind of escaping the Empire scene. It's kind of a getaway, not getaway, but from start to finish, all groups, specifically, you've got Maul and his gang, meaning the Mandalorians and his Dathomir brothers, and then you've got the Jedi with Lawson and Riley and Two Boots, their group as well, all trying to just flee, get off planet. Obviously, in this process, Maul's trying to get Devin to come with him. And Lawson's focus is get Riley off planet, whether he has to stay behind or not. And the Jedi are kind of just realizing we're making matters worse. How they're just realizing this now, I don't know. So I think they even, in a discussion in one of the episodes, Doc even mentioned, like, why don't we just like turn ourselves in for the sake of Lawson in the group? Maybe they'll find leniency in that. Obviously, they wouldn't. They would take him out. But in both episodes, from start to finish, trying to get away, trying to get off planet. And we start with chapter 7, so Call to the Oblivion. And we start out, Maul, Devin, and Riley are looking to get out of the train tunnels that they're in. So if you remember, last time we left off with them, Maul and Devin were dueling Marek, and they severed the train to escape, and Riley is with them. So now they're walking through the tunnels. Maul wants to get them to camp and says they are, once they get there, that Devin and Riley are free to go if they want. He says that, but you also get the sense, like, obviously Maul wants Devin to come with him as an apprentice. So he's trying to earn her trust a little bit there. But I don't think Devin's really buying it all too much. And Devin and Riley essentially say, they want to get back to Lawson and Docky, but they know that at the moment they have to follow with Maul, with the Empire kind of trailing them. So if they get, numbers alone, they're more safe, the three of them. So yeah, Maul wants to get them to his camp, and Devin and Riley just want to find Lawson and Docky. Lawson and Docky, we see them. They're also trying to find Devin and Riley as well. And then we cut back to Devin and Maul, and Devin asks Maul about his master. I thought this was a pretty cool scene. Or pretty cool quotes. So Devin is asking Maul about the master, and Maul's response is, his betrayal was devastating, but it wasn't the deepest wound he'd inflict upon him. And the betrayal obviously is cutting ties with him to pursue Vader, to a stronger apprentice, for the overall mission that Sidious had. And the deepest cut, I believe, was more of the killing his brother Savage. And we kind of get a glimpse of that in the next episode of a quote that he says later on. So him thinking that as he's hearing these voices and having these visions, like, clearly that's what's holding him back. Meaning his family, his brother, like that Sidious killing his brother and his family is ultimately what's destroying him more than his betrayal. The betrayal hurt, and it's frustrating and creating, power to his anger, but it's more the loss of his brother that's hurting than anything. And then Davin asks, "Is he still alive? Is your master still alive?" And Maul's like, "Unfortunately." um. So and Merrick here, he's still kind of searching for Maul and now the Jedi, and we see him and he's receiving a I think he received a call. Yeah, he received a call, and he's being requested to brief and then he disconnects the call. So it's like, all right, who's he trying to brief? And I wondered if that tied into the hologram that we saw, that the kind of cliffhanger from the previous episode. Is it Vader? Is it Sidious? I think it's Vader. That would be my guess. That 1A would be Vader, 1B would be Sidious. I think both are, you can make pretty good arguments for either one, especially on the Sidious side. If you go back to the trailer, I don't know if it was the first trailer we got or the second trailer, they talked about how it was mentioned that Sidious wants the Inquisitors and to track or the Empire to track everything that Maul is doing. So obviously Sidious is aware of Maul's, still alive, and wants to be informed of anything new with Maul and what he's doing. So you could stand to believe that it's possible Merrick was talking to Sidious. But in terms of rank, I don't think Sidious would really be communicating with the Inquisitors. I think that would fall more on Vader's responsibilities, because he's the one that kind of heads the Inquisitor group. So he's the head, he's the president. The Grand Inquisitor is kind of like the vice president. They're the two that communicate the orders and direction for the rest of the Inquisitors. The Grand Inquisitor isn't necessarily a lord, so in the hologram they were talking about, my lord, or maybe they just said lord, but you would stand to believe that it was Lord Vader that he's communicating with. So that's my stance on that. Anyways, back to this line that I was talking about. So requesting to brief and we get cut off from that. I think it's probably the same person, but it also could be trying to brief the 11th Inquisitor, 11th brother, because he shows up in this. So he's probably wanting to brief the 11th Inquisitor to catch him up in their efforts to catch Maul and now 2 Jedi. I'm sure if it was just Maul, they probably would still have just Merrick out there. But then once they heard that there are also Jedi involved, it's like, all right, we need more than just one Inquisitor to handle this situation. So potentially it could be referring to the 11th brother briefing him. So then Maul, Devin, and Riley get to Maul's group's base, essentially, and they see the Empire is drawing close. Devin and Riley, at this point, they just try to escape. They're like, screw this, we're getting out of here. We've gotten Maul back to his group. Now we want to go find Lawson, so we don't trust Maul. We're out. But as soon as they do that, Maul interferes. And he's like, do you think you can take on the Empire alone? Like, you want to leave and be on your own, and you think you can just get past the Empire? And obviously, still, Maul wants Devin. And Maul is like, you're wearing my patience thin. That more specifically because he wants Devin to stay with him. So her trying to leave is frustrating him so much, wearing his patience thin, instead of the idea of just them wanting to leave is running their patience thin. No, he's just getting upset because he wants her as the apprentice. Devin insists it's time for them to go, but then Maul kind of uses the Force to, like, I don't know, freeze her almost, and she's like in a position trying to grab her lightsaber but can't move. Um, she finally breaks free of that, and Riley kind of runs off and hides. And then she engages him, Maul, with her lightsaber, and they're starting to duel a little bit. And then this causes like the attention of a spy droid. So the droids that we see, Empire Strikes Back, the probe droid things. Um, we see one of those, and then it notices the saber fighting. And as soon as that happens, then all these stormtroopers show up. Uh, Maul and Devin then stop their fight to engage the stormtroopers, along with the rest of the group. So the Mandalorians, the two other Dathomir brothers, they're all fighting the stormtroopers as well. Uh, while Riley is kind of hiding back behind some like crates, the stormtroopers approach him. They get to him, apprehend him, and they take him to a ship to fly away. Devin tries to stop them and, jumps on the ship, but then ends up falling back to the ground, failing to stop them from taking him away. And watching these episodes, this was one of my big takeaways. I thought this was very symbolic to what had happened with like Order 66 and the Jedi. Because here we have Devin, she's trying to protect Riley, trying to get Riley back to Lawson. Obviously, she wants to get back to Daki as well. But her mission is to protect him, protect, the innocent civilians, protect the people. She's trying to protect Riley. But then she gets distracted by Maul, by the fighting. And this is kind of symbolic to the Jedi in general, kind of being distracted by whether it be political or tensions amongst, the Trade Federation or other groups, and the battles and the fighting that are taking place between the Republic and the Trade Federation. All these things that are causing distractions to them from their overall objective, which was to protect people, to protect the galaxy. They aren't supposed to be soldiers. They're becoming soldiers due to current circumstances. And that all shadowed the Republic coming in and essentially becoming the Empire, and Order 66 occurring, destroying all the Jedi. So again, symbolic with this, because Devin is distracted by the fight with Maul, which shadows the whole situation where Riley ends up getting captured by the Empire, resulting in her not being able to protect the innocence of the people, or innocent people. So I thought that was pretty symbolic. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but that's how I kind of interpreted it. And she later even mentions that she failed him, so just like the Jedi failed the people. Anyways, moving on from there, so we then see Merrick is informed that Maul has been located, and they've engaged him, and they're attacking him and his group. And at that point, we then see the 11th brother show up. He has a grand entrance. We remember him from Tales of the Jedi, where he dueled. Well, didn't really duel. Ahsoka took him out pretty quick. So yeah, now enter 11th brother. Excuse me. So then, Lawson and Daki are now in the train rail. Lawson tells Daki he never believed the Jedi betrayed the Republic. So going back to Order 66, it didn't set right with him. He didn't believe that that's the situation that occurred. I'm sure that caused tensions for probably the divorce that he had with his wife. Granted, now I'm starting to wonder if the relationship he had with Rena, I think it is, might have also played a part in that separation, but either way, Lawson just couldn't see it in the Jedi that they betrayed the Republic. And Taki was greatly appreciative of that. And he's like, yeah, so, yeah, that you're right, but that's not what the galaxy felt. So we all know what happens. And then as they're having their discussion, Devin kind of is seen running towards them from the opposite side of the tunnel. And he informs Lawson and Daki that Riley has been taken. And then I wrote this down. Daki responds, I believe our presence here has made things worse. No shit. Like, but do you really need to say that? Like, why did you even show up at the apartment of Lawson's apartment? Like, you knew what was happening, and you're Jedi. You're not supposed to be putting innocent people's lives in jeopardy. You're supposed to be sacrificing yourselves in the perseverance of innocent people. So, like, it's kind of interesting that Daki, kind of throughout this whole show so far has been so held strong to we're supposed to follow the Jedi way. Devin wanted some food in the one episode and wanted to steal some, and Daki's like, no, that's not what Jedi do. But here, like what was it, episode 3 and 4 maybe? But we'll put the Lawson's lives in jeopardy by showing up. We know the Empire is after them. We know we've been seen, so we'll hide in their apartment, and we're not causing any issues there. So yeah, like, I just thought it was funny that I believe our presence here has made things worse. Yeah, a little bit. You're making things worse for them a little bit. So Daki wants to turn themselves in to spare the Lawsons. Devin disagrees. The issue is that Riley is still not with him. He's been captured, so she doesn't want to abandon him. Because if they just go turn themselves in, that they feel, or she feels that that's not doing any good for Riley, and just that's abandoning him. And then Lawson responds like he's going to get his son and get as far away as possible. Like, that's his overall mission. And Devin agrees. Okay, we'll help. And then Daki acquiesces as well. So then we cut to Maul and the group. They've kind of taken down the stormtroopers that have been fighting them. They're looking to leave. And some of the Mandos, they have like these large crates of credits that they're like hauling, and it's kind of slowing them down a little bit. And Rook is like, no, let him leave it. We got to get out of here. It's not worth the risk. What's money worth if you're not around to spend it or anything? So you see them kind of like look at each other a little bit, and then they're like, okay. So then they drop it, and then they make their way with the rest of the group. Then we see stormtroopers bring Riley to the police station, so Lawson's station. Riley is specifically asking for Two Boots. He's like, I know Two Boots, and Two Boots knows me. He'll be able to explain everything and whatnot. And Two Boots does show up, and he informs them who the kid is. It's Lawson's kid. But Blake tells Two Boots that Riley has been aiding the fugitives that they've been after. And Two Boots is like scolding him. He's like, what are you doing? How dare you do that? Blah, 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 blah. But in this process of this conversation, and through what Blake has been saying, Lieutenant Blake, I think, Two Boots is like, well, I understand that he's a fugitive, but protocol isn't being followed here. Like, there's certain levels of protocol that he's got installed in him, and that they have to comply to move forward, and that's not being followed. And Blake tells him essentially like, I don't care what the protocol is, you're going to listen to me, and if you don't, there's going to be consequences. So then you start seeing, we've had prior scenes where Two Boots is like trying to calculate these things, like what's going on here. And even Lawson alluded to him, like, you just don't understand. You're a droid. You follow protocol. You don't understand. Um, but we keep getting these glimpses of Two Boots like trying to understand, kind of giving us the idea that he will eventually get it and then start trying to help. Um, so then Maul and the group, they're walking through the tunnel still. Rook tells Maul that some of the group is like starting to waver a little bit, going back to the scene of them trying to take the money. Like they're getting a little restless. We've been on the run. No one ever said that the Empire was ever going to be part of this deal. So like we're starting to get a little bit of cracks in here, and we need to resolve this as soon as possible. They want their pay. So then Rook questions Maul about Devin, the apprentice, and that seeking, or the potential apprentice, I should say, and that Maul's attempt to seek her out is clouding his judgment, which is true. That I definitely agree that it's causing a little issue, but like at the same time, Maul could care less about the money and everything at this moment. He wants the apprentice. That's his overall objective right now for his greater objective, which is to take down Sidious. He knows he can't do it alone. He probably feels like this band of Mandos and Dathomir brothers aren't going to help me. In order to accomplish my main goal, I need Devin. So then you get kind of this like pretty interesting dialogue back and forth between Maul and Rook on the situation of the apprentice. So Maul is like, you've seen her fight. You know what she's capable of. She's worth the risk because of how good she is. And Rook is like, I also see the allegiances. It's to her master. So she's aware of how good she is, but she doesn't sense any wavering in Devin in terms of joining Maul. If anything, the contrary. Maul's like, allegiances can be severed. He's got much experience in that, so understood why he would feel that way, that allegiances can be severed. I mean, just think about it. You've got him and Sidious, of course, and then I'm sure he's quite aware of the situation with like Asajj Ventress and Dooku and everything, so even the most powerful allegiances can be severed. And then Rook responds, I agree in terms of allegiances can be severed. And Maul's like, so remember that. And it kind of alluding to like that maybe their allegiances can be severed too. Was that a threat? Potentially. And then Rook responds, and without prosperity, so can the bonds of mercenaries. So allegiances can be severed, but also without prosperity, so can the bonds of mercenaries. And that's more her area of expertise, mercenaries. So these Mandos that she's with, if they don't get paid, they're going to cut and run. So, and shit could go down a little bit. I also wrote this down as I was watching this, because like this conversation right here is kind of foretelling what's going to happen. And I wrote down, Star Wars has a tendency to tell you what's going to happen before it happens. Sure, there are many great reveals, I am your father and type of stuff like that are unpredictable. But at the same time, Star Wars does a lot in terms of telling you right to your face what's going to happen. And I feel like this is also kind of foretelling. And I think it's more in terms of the bonds of her mercenaries breaking, which we do see in the next episode. But also foretelling Maul acquiring Devin as an apprentice. And potentially their allegiances, meaning Maul and future apprentice Devin, their allegiances being severed, because obviously we don't see Devin in Rebels. So something happened there, whether maybe she got killed off, or maybe something happened and their master apprenticeship or their partnership broke down. That's yet to be seen, but I just thought that was kind of foretelling in my eyes. So then we go back to Lawson. He's trying to communicate to Two Boots through his comm, and Two Boots does answer. He's sitting at the desk in the station, but then you see he's looking around and he sees all these stormtroopers and Imperials around, and as they're approaching, he like cuts the call and just trying to stay hidden. Obviously you don't want to be talking to fugitives. And then we see that Riley is in custody in a cell. And then we go back to Maul and the gang, and they get to where their ships are. They see one of the Mandalorian like fighter ship things in the distance. And as they're kind of heading to it, Maul senses the Empire is there right away. It's like, this isn't right. And then as soon as he says that, then you just see the stormtroopers start shooting. So we're under attack again. The Inquisitors show up this time, essentially having Maul and his gang surrounded on both sides of a bridge. So when you first see the stormtroopers, they're firing from behind, and then you see one of the LAAT ships, transport ships, come down in the bridge in front of them. I think it's like a bridge or some kind of pathway. And the Inquisitors get off with some more stormtroopers. So they've got them kind of trapped on both sides. Maul jumps down to a lower bridge platform thing, kind of drawing the Inquisitors with him. So you got both Merrick and the 11th Inquisitor, or 11th brother, in pursuit of Maul. Meanwhile, the stormtroopers are fighting off the Mandos and the Dathomir brothers. So Maul is dueling them 2v1. And you get a really cool scene here too. They're jumping through or going through a waterfall. And you see the Inquisitor's lightsaber, like when the water hits it, like it starts steaming and everything. So just very cool attention to detail, especially with this art. The lightsabers look amazing. So just even that little detail just makes it that much better. I think we see it too in Visions. I think it was the Elder episode when it was raining. Whenever you saw a raindrop hit it, you saw it kind of steam up. And I think we commented on that. And it was really cool. Sorry, just taking a little drink. My mouth keeps getting a little dry when I'm talking by myself. Mouth is going to get dry a little quicker. So yeah, that was kind of awesome detail. So you see the Mandos and the Zabroks are kind of holding their own pretty well against all the stormtroopers. I mean, there are what seem to be a lot of stormtroopers. Again, they're surrounded. And I mean, we probably have maybe a total of a dozen fighters for Maul's group outside of Maul. Probably less than that. You got the two Dathomir brothers, the Zabroks, and then you've got Rook, and then maybe a handful or two of other Mandos. And there's all these transport ships bringing in stormtroopers. So kudos to them being able to hold off them very well. And then we cut back to Maul, and you see his leg kind of glitching a little bit, like sparks kind of shooting off the knee. So obviously his knee is still impacting him and weighing him down in his fights, and because of that, he seems to be struggling. Well, I'll get back to this, so I'll hold. But I have a comment here and a takeaway that I kind of want to speak to, which is, if I had an issue with these episodes specifically or the show in general, this would be it. Again, doesn't mean I don't like what's going on. It was hard to believe. I just felt it didn't seem right to me. So I'll get back to that. So the Mandos and Dathomir brothers, they're fending off pretty well, but it seems like as soon as they fight off one group, another group of stormtroopers comes in and gets taken out. At one point, 3 Mandalorians try to flee. They're like, we're done with this. It's not worth it. We're getting away. And then you see Vario kind of like running after him. He's like, wait for me. Like, don't leave without me. I want to join. I want to get out of here. But he doesn't. He just misses out as the lift is going up, and he doesn't get all on board of the ship. And the three Mandos take off in the ship, and then all of a sudden, and they call down to Rook too, and saying that they're out of here. And she kind of calls them fools or something of the sort. And then we see like 4 transports or LAAT ships ahead of them, each one like shooting a rocket, and it's like spinning towards them and essentially just destroys them. So those 3 Mandos got taken out. And then we see Vario rejoining the group after he couldn't get away. Maul we go back to Maul, and he is about to get taken out by the 11th brother. And at this point, the like machine gun Dathomir brother guy shows up and interferes and saves Maul, essentially. Maybe saves Maul. It gives that impression that he saved him. But then right away, the 11th brother just stabs him with lightsaber and takes him out. Obviously, Maul is devastated by this, frustrated by it. And then he continues the saber fight with them. But then it gets to a point, like in this fight too, he's kind of fleeing because it makes it seem like he's being overwhelmed. So then they kind of show him like looking to take a knee, almost like giving himself up and surrendering. And as he does this, the 2 Inquisitors approach, and Merrick has his like lightsaber kind of spinning. And Merrick is like, there is no surrender for you. The Emperor wants you dead. And Maul's response was likewise. And then he uses the Force to like pull down the cave, or it seemed like they were in a cave, the cave ceiling, on top of both of the Inquisitors. And then that's where this episode cuts out. So where I was talking about that I want to get back to, the issue I have is I just feel like I know Maul's leg has been like compromised a little bit. It's kind of glitching, and he's struggling a little to walk. I don't feel like Maul would be bested by 2 Inquisitors. I know Marok is the like first brother, so outside of the Grand Inquisitor, probably the best Inquisitor. But to me, Inquisitors are inferior to Sith, are inferior to Jedi. I mean, they were essentially Jedi Padawans, or not younglings, but Padawans, or young Jedi Knights that, post Order 66 transitioned over to the Empire and being used as Force wielders to take down Jedi. They aren't quite Sith. And I know Maul, back in the Phantom Menace, he was a Sith apprentice, but for Inquisitors, it was like 1 year. I mean, this is only 1 year post Order 66, so the Inquisitors haven't been Inquisitors long. And there's been some time between Maul falling in terms from the duel between Kenobi and Qui-Gon when he was a Sith apprentice to where he is now. I mean, we saw it all throughout Clone Wars, and how much stronger he got, even though he lost his lower half. He did grow in power and strength through anger, through frustration, fear, and everything that motivated him to survive. That empowered him. So Maul just seems like he would be able to handle 2 Inquisitors quite easily. So to me, it's not believable that the 2 Inquisitors would best him here. I mean, think about it. Maul also, as a Sith apprentice, pretty much won a fight between him versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, Kenobi was a Padawan. And we know that as a Padawan, Kenobi wasn't the best. He was actually on the lower end of the totem pole in terms of ability as an apprentice. What set him apart and why Kenobi was able to grow into such a powerful Jedi was his dedication to training and learning and growing. That's what got him to be so strong. However, I don't. Well, again, Maul defeated Qui-Gon and Kenobi because he killed Qui-Gon, and then he got Kenobi in a situation where he was essentially hanging from that, shaft that he would fall to his death, essentially. And Maul is just like toying him with his lightsaber. He could have easily he could have simply just force pushed him down or something of the sort, and Kenobi would have been gone. But the weakness of Sith is their arrogance and just their pride and everything. And, Maul is that way for sure. That he's just toying with him. It gave Obi-Wan Kenobi the opportunity to exploit that weakness and sever him in half. So, Maul being able to defeat Qui-Gon, who's one of the better Jedi at the time, and Kenobi makes me feel like taking on Marak and the 11th Inquisitor would be piece of cake, whether he had a gimpy leg or not. Like, you don't need a leg to use the Force, and he could just crush them using the Force, in my opinion. But that's not what transpired here. So, and maybe it was just all part of his game plan. He wanted to look like he was weak to draw him into the situation where he would pull the ceiling down. But then it was just in an effort for him to escape. So that's why I don't believe it. He would have just taken him out. So yeah, that's how that episode ended. And then we've got chapter 8, which is The Creeping Fear. So again, this is the one that we get more into the psyche of Maul. We get a little bit more backstory from him through visions. Obviously, we have plenty of backstory about him through Clone Wars. More or less, we know what happened to him, how the Empire acquired him, or not the Empire, how Sidious acquired him as an apprentice, took him from his family and everything. But we get a little more visual of how that's eating at him, at Maul, in his current situation. So the episode starts, we cut back to Maul pulling down the cave ceiling, which they actually replay that ending part of that scene, which I thought was kind of interesting. You haven't really seen that before. I mean, you would think they would just cut into the next portion of that, but I'm sure they were like, all right, again, this is what happened. I mean, they released the episodes at the same time. So again, if they just joined the episodes to be one episode, you wouldn't have to do this. But anyways, so we go back to that scene, and then as a result of it, he pulls down the ceiling. The Inquisitors kind of run the opposite direction. Meanwhile, Maul jumps kind of there's this opening off, and it's off the side of the cave, and it's kind of like a cliff, and he jumps off and kind of escapes on his own way. And in that jump, he does, if you recall from Revenge of the Sith, when the 4 Jedi, Mace Windu and Kit Fisto and 2 others come, what's the term, that confront the Emperor. And he's like, are you threatening me, Master Jedi? When Sidious attacks them, he does that kind of jump spinny thingy with his saber. And that's what Maul does as he's jumping off this cliff. And I'm sure it has to do with it was quite the fall. So maybe doing that spinny move, it's like a parkour move or some sort. So, but just kind of interesting to see that they brought that move in right here. And you got that same scream, which was kind of fascinating as well, that the Emperor did at that point. So then Marak and the 11th Inquisitor, they find their way out of the cave and they join up with the rest of the stormtroopers. Rook joins up with the remaining Mandos and group and says there's no sign of Maul. They'll leave the sector or where they're at and hope Maul meets up with them, finds them. And then she's like walking by the Dathomir brother, who's obviously in pain because his brother got taken out, and kind of does a little consoling little tap on the shoulder type of thing. We then see Maul, and he's like unconscious, and he wakes, and he starts hearing. Well, actually, you kind of heard the voices before he woke, but he wakes, and there's voices of the Inquisitors. And when he opens his eyes, he sees his reflection in a puddle that's below him. And then it turns into a reflection of his younger self. And to that reflection, he says, "I hate you." And I thought that was super interesting. So, obviously, Sidious is part of his hate. What has happened is part of his anger and hate. But he also hates himself. Specifically here, his younger self. I have to believe he hates it for being able to give in and fall to becoming the apprentice of Sidious, even though he was kind of forced into that situation. But probably hates for his weakness in that situation to become what he had become, that ended up being betrayed. And after he says, "I hate you," he kind of bats it away, the reflection at the pool, the puddle. And then it goes back to a reflection of his current self. He's trying to climb out of the tunnel, but his leg keeps shorting out even more frequently now, causing more of a struggle. And you can then see that he hears the Imperials kind of above him, and mixed in with the sound of his like own screaming and everything. So just, I'm sure, getting knocked out and from the fall and everything, it's just a lot of things going on in his head right now, between hearing voices and seeing visions of his younger self and everything. And then following that, it cuts to the episode title screen. And I only put that here because it was interesting that you hear the Emperor's laugh. So it says "the creeping fear." And as it's showing that, it's like, ha, 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 ha. The Emperor's, I mean, that was terrible impression, but you get my point. It was the Emperor's laugh that was happening as they were showing the title scene. So then we cut to Riley. He gets brought into the interrogation room, the same one that we saw Lawson in. So Blake brings him in. And then, once again, we see an Inquisitor there to interrogate, but it's the 11th Inquisitor this time. He shows up. And Riley's like, "Who are you? I didn't do anything. What are you doing here?" And he's obviously scared and kind of cowering back. So, definitely intimidated by the Inquisitor. Lawson, Devin, and Docky, they're continuing to look for Riley. Rena actually contacts Lawson. She tells him that she found a transport to get them off planet, to come to them as soon as possible, but they have 2 hours and then the ship is gone. Excuse me. Lawson says he has to do something first, which is, obviously find Riley. And he needs more time than 2 hours, likely more time. Rena's like, hurry up. So then we cut to the station. Two Boots comes across one of Lawson's officers that we've seen in previous episodes. And that officer tells Two Boots, "What's going on? You're acting pretty weird." And Two Boots is like, "I'm just following protocol. Everyone else seems to be acting weird. Like, what's going on here?" And the officer kind of alludes to what Lawson was telling him. Was like, "You just don't get it. You're a droid. You follow protocol. You don't understand what the Empire being here means. People aren't going to be going, the Empire doesn't follow protocol. They follow what they want, and they'll take any means possible to accomplish their deeds." So then Two Boots and Lawson do get in contact again. Lawson says he just wants his son to be safe and tells Two Boots, where he wants his son to be brought. Like, do this for me too, Boots. I just want him safe. Bring him to me. I don't care what protocol is. Devin and Docky tell Lawson that this is a terrible plan. Like, it's too much of a risk. The Empire isn't going to follow by this. Lawson says it might be true, but it's really the one shot that he has to save his son. So no matter the risk, it's the only shot he's got. He's going to take it because it's his son. Of course, he's going to do it. Lawson gives Docky the coordinates to the ship from Reyna, and tells him, like, no matter what, please ensure Riley is on that ship and that ship gets off planet so that they can be safe. And Docky accepts this, even though he thinks the plan is shit. He's like, okay, we will do that. Then we see Two Boots. He approaches the cell that Riley is in, and he's like, I'm rescuing you. So clearly it's clicked a little bit to Two Boots that, like, all right, I'm going to go up against protocol now. I'm going to listen to my longtime friend in Lawson, and, obviously the safety of Riley is of utmost importance, so he'll risk protocol to do that. Where did I leave it? Oh, and then we see Maul again, and he continues to struggle to exit through the tunnels, still hearing voices. He hears the Emperor laughing. He hears Marok tell him that the Emperor wants him dead. And to that voice that the Emperor wants you dead, Maul responds. He's responding to himself because he's, again, our voice is in his head. He's like, yes, even though I showed him loyalty. Maul falls down to his knees and has another flashback. Well, I guess this is his first flashback because it was just a reflection. He saw a younger himself. But he has a flashback of him and Savage when they were young. And this was when Maul was being taken by Sidious for the apprenticeship. Savage clearly doesn't want him to go, but Maul really doesn't have a choice. So he's going to go, and he goes. Maul starts getting upset at seeing this vision, and he's like, no, Sidious. Then we see another vision, this one of his younger self, and he's training, sparring with Sidious with lightsabers. And Sidious, I think he had both of his lightsabers. Maul just had a single red one. Sidious tells him in this vision, your focus is feeble, my young apprentice, which kind of goes back to what Rook was warning him about. It's like, this seeking this apprentice is, this focus is kind of complicating things. So interesting that they put that quote in from Sidious. Sidious tells him to strike him in this vision. He doesn't. He wasn't able to. And Sidious says, pathetic. And then uses force lightning on him and just torturing him with force lightning. The next vision is from episode 1. So again, these are just consecutive visions that one after the another he's having as he's going through this. It's like really windy, dust blowing tunnel that he's walking through, having these visions. So this next one's from episode 1, and it's during the Duel of Fates. You hear Kenobi's cry out. So when he cried out right when Qui-Gon got struck, no, that's what you hear. Along with those like force field gates. So you kind of hear that at the same time, just kind of setting that scene, bringing us back to it. And Maul, as he's listening or seeing this, he's like, Kenobi? Questioning it. And then he next sees himself, another vision, in the trash heap that he fell down after being cut in half, where he constructed his like spider insect leg things from Clone Wars. Then Sidious taking out his brother, stabbing him from Clone Wars. You see that following it. And then another vision, seeing himself surrounded by like Night Sister magic, you see that like green smoke steam thing that whenever Mother Talzin did her magic, you would see it around. So I think it was supposed to be like from when she was fixing them up, maybe. Maybe. And then after seeing that vision earlier on in this episode, I mentioned like um the number one uh pain that his master caused, like when he said, or did Devin asked, because it was when Devin asked if the master was still alive, or did he betray you or something like that, and he's like, his betrayal was terrible, but it wasn't the worst thing he did to me. When Maul says this line, my home, my family, my brother, all taken from me. Sidious, you did this to me. And then he yells, you did this to me. You did this. I listed this as a key quote because this is really the true motivation behind his frustration and want of revenge against Sidious. This is the biggest betrayal that Sidious had to him. Killed his brother, took down the Night Sisters, destroyed essentially where he was from. This was all Sidious's doing. So then we go back into the city. Devin is sneaking around looking for a speeder to get, the rest of the group out of there. She finds one. There's like these 3 alien mechanics working on it, listening to some like punk music and everything. They confront her, but then the scene kind of clips away, and it's then shows them on the ground, like unconscious, and she taking the speeder away. So obviously she fought them, didn't kill them. I doubt she killed them, and took them out pretty easily to steal the speeder. So here we go, her stealing again. So now it's okay to steal. I mean, obviously she was okay with stealing the food, but maybe Daki was okay with this. So then we see Two Boots. He's escorting Riley in an effort to get him out of there. We have these stormtroopers that stop him, asking what he's doing, which he then responds, doing a prisoner transport. And they're like, well, this wasn't reported. This can't be the case. What are you doing? And then he just immediately attacks them, takes them out pretty easily, too. So then Two Boots gets Riley. He gets Riley to Lawson. Lawson thanks him. Two Boots asks how he... Two Boots is like, how did you know it was me? I'm not even wearing my boots. And Lawson replied to him like, he know him any day. Like, there's no way he wouldn't have recognized him. So then Lawson tells Riley to go with Daki, that he'll take him to a ship. He also tells him that he can't go with Riley because part of the plan, obviously, well, not part of the deal was Lawson's giving himself up to Two Boots. Two Boots will bring him in to the Empire in exchange for Riley to leave with Daki to get off planet. Then we see stormtroopers start shooting at them, and it's like, well, this happening just kind of threw the plan to shit, because then Lawson goes back with the rest of the group, and we see Devin arrive with the speeder to take them all away, and then we have this like pretty intense like speed chase through the streets of the city that they're in, and it was pretty cool. They're being chased by stormtroopers on speeders and walkers on LAAT ships, and there's like all this havoc and destruction taking place. So it was a pretty cool high-speed chase. We then see Maul's looking to get out of the tunnels, and he's still trying to get out, hearing voices. He collapses to the ground again, and again sees a puddle of himself, a younger version of him. And then young Maul says, I'm sorry. And then Maul says, it's all right. It's all right. I won't let him do this to anyone else. Obviously referring to Sidious. Won't let Sidious destroy someone else's life as it did for Maul. So kind of, I don't know, that wasn't really a dark side of him. He has some maybe a little goodness or righteousness in him, even though he's a bad dude, but he kind of teeters on that moral gray, um, but recognizes that Sidious is a bad dude, needs to be taken out, and he's not gonna let him cause the harm that Sidious did to him to anyone else. But just also interesting that not too long ago we saw him saying he hated his younger self, and now after his younger self, because of being weak, and now his younger self is apologizing, which could be a sign of being weak again. And Maul's like, it's okay. So just kind of interesting there. So after he says to himself he won't allow Sidious to do this to anyone else, he gets back up, and this like intense music starts playing, and he continues on. Then we see Maul's group is waiting for him still. Rook tells Vario they'll wait there as long as they need to, until Maul arrives, because they aren't going anywhere without him. And then as soon as, like, right after that was said, we see Maul approaching them, so he arrives. And then we see Devin walking with Riley. They're kind of behind a little bit from Lawson, Daki, and Two Boots. They're having their own little conversation. And Devin mentions, I failed to protect you. I'm sorry. Riley says, no, it was my fault. I got caught. Riley informs Devin that there is a second Inquisitor there, that he was interrogated by him. So they, along with the rest of their group, eventually arrive at an elevator, which leads down to where Rena is. And they hop on the elevator. They're taking it down. And then all of a sudden, you see Devin have like this look to her face, and she's like, something feels off. This isn't right. This feels like a trap. And Riley's like, to Lawson, maybe you should better call her. Lawson mentions that she would never betray him through the past that they have, that just wouldn't happen. He does end up calling Rena, and in that call, she kind of gives a little indicator. I'm sure they have kind of this hidden language, alluding to that she has been compromised. So Lawson hangs up, and he tells the group, yep, she's been compromised. We got to get out of here. In an effort to try to lift the elevator back up, like bring it back to where they were, they see that the controls have been overridden and they can't stop it. So they're on their way to the bottom. We then see the Inquisitors kind of approach the base of the elevator with some stormtroopers around them, just waiting for them to get down there. The elevator gets to the floor, it opens up, and they aren't in it. All we see is this kind of circular hole cut out, like we've seen from Revenge of the Sith, and they escaped out the top of the elevator before it could get to the bottom. One of the Inquisitors asks, where are they? And then at that moment, Rena, who's kind of being held by, she was either being held by Blake or one of the stormtroopers, she kind of like knocks him in a way to get away, and there's a little tuffle fight that breaks out, and she does kind of get away, and then like a ship explodes, and I think she escapes. I don't know. I can't remember. And then we cut back to Maul and their group. They made their way to Nicodemus's office, so one of the crime syndicate lords, and they're going to hide in that office until they can get off planet, essentially, or get away. They're worried about where they are, and Vario's like, well, we took care of him, and he's not going to show up here anytime soon. And then Vario, he's getting a call. He says it's from a smuggler, and it ends up being a representative from Crimson Dawn, and it's actually someone we're familiar with from Crimson Dawn from the movie Solo. It's Drayden Voss, and he's requesting an audience from Maul. So clearly, the end of this episode, that was the end of it. We see Maul, and it kind of pans out, and then cutscene credits. So obviously, kind of setting the path to where we see him in Solo with Crimson Dawn, which I'm sure we will eventually get there. Whether that's the next step or not, I don't know. Um, will we see Drayden Voss in the next 2 episodes? It's possible. Crimson Dawn, we might see him. I wonder if we'll eventually see Kira. I don't think we're there yet. But connecting the spaces between some of the movies that we have, so that's really cool to see. The overall question from these 2 episodes, we still don't know who's on the holocron. I think everyone was anticipating we would find out today who it was, but no, we're gonna have to wait till next week. I'm sure we'll find that out on May 4th. So May the 4th is just around the corner next week. Hopefully everyone has plans and wants to do something Star Wars related. I know I've got some things I plan on doing, but yeah, we did not get that answer, so that's still TBD on if it's Vader, is it the Emperor, is it someone else on the hologram that was talking with Merrick Murrock. Sorry, Merrick Murrock. If you know which way it should be, let me know. I still go back and forth on that. So as I said at the top of the episode, very interesting episodes, very well done, more suspense building than anything, more plot building. But I would say it was not as, I'll still say it was interesting, but not as entertaining in certain ways as prior episodes that we've got. Again, still very good. Very good. I mean, day 1, those 2 episodes, I'd put like at a 9. Day 2, put those episodes like 9.5. Day 3, I think we're back at a 9. One of the episodes probably like 8.5. But then today's episodes, these are like 7.5 out of 10, I would put combined. So still very much above average, very good, but just not at the level of the other episodes that we've been getting. But I think that will lead into next week's episodes just being probably like 10 out of 10. I have high expectations. Probably be really good. I mean, there's some scenes from trailers we haven't quite seen yet, I believe. And I have to believe we'll get Vader confronting Maul. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Or at least on the hologram getting that reveal. And they're going to leave it at some sort of cliffhanger as well. But the thing that has been on par throughout this whole season is the art, choreography, soundtrack, all that top notch, really setting the bar high for, future works going forward from Star Wars. Really putting an exclamation mark on how well animation works for Star Wars, especially when you have this level of art and imagery and everything. I won't say animated Star Wars is the future of Star Wars. I think it's going to be a big portion of the future of Star Wars. But I think the future of Star Wars is and always will be the big screen. That's where they need to hit it the biggest. But I think shows like Maul, shows like Clone Wars and Rebels, Tales of the Jedi show how much Star Wars truly does work in animation. And it's only getting better as we move along. Each animated show we gets better and better. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to speak to in terms of these episodes. Again, it's kind of the same theme throughout both these episodes. We're fleeing the Empire, trying to get off world. In order to accomplish our missions, we have to get away from the Empire. Damn it, Two Boots, you caused this. But yeah, and I'm sure we'll get some of them getting off world at the end of next week, but when will Devin join Maul will be TBD. So let us know what you think. Like, Is Devin? I don't know if Devin's going to join Maul at the end of this season. I still think Daki won't make it out. But we only have 2 episodes left, and Devin is still very much standing firm in terms of not joining with Maul, actually trying to escape him. So that's going to be quite the flip if it happens in the next 2 episodes. I know we have a season 2, so maybe that happens more there. Or maybe it happens in between the seasons. It alludes to it, and then season 2 picks up where they're already teaming up again. We'll have to wait and see. But I just don't think the full turn will happen next week. And yeah, that's the episodes. One more day to go. Looking forward to seeing that, discussing that. Hopefully Bogey will be able to join us and be able to talk through his thoughts. We'll have to get caught up with how he's feeling about the last 2 days, last 4 episodes. So we would spend a little time on that, but focusing on those final 2 episodes. I know he has a lot he wants to talk about too, so looking forward to that. In the meantime, again, if you're listening to us, hit that subscribe button, like, follow, rate, review, comment, all the above. Thank you for doing so. Prize giveaway, 200 subscribers. That one we won't reveal until we're actually giving it away. And then Theory Saber lightsaber giveaway at 500 subscribers. We're almost there. We're at, I think we need 12 more to hit 200. So I'm really looking forward to giving that first prize giveaway. We'll have the drawing on the show, so everyone can watch. And yeah, again, May the 4th coming up. Star Wars Day comes once a year, but we love Star Wars every day of the year. But just another holiday that's fun to celebrate our passion for Star Wars, and whether it's dressing up as some of our favorite characters, whether it's spending the day to watch movie or Star Wars movies or shows or whatever content. I think of myself, I might do some Lego builds for Star Wars to celebrate, watch some of the stuff with my kids and wife, probably go to trivia day at a brewery. Something along those lines is what I plan on doing. So I hope everyone out there gets to do something that they enjoy with Star Wars as well. But till then, I will wrap this up for today. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. Really looking forward to finishing this show in a week. And then the Mando movie comes out not too long ago. I have my tickets. I'm going Thursday, the 21st of May. So really excited for that. Again, my expectations have kind of been tamed on that. I still feel like the Maul show is going to be more exciting than the movie, but I don't know. I am excited just to be back in the theater with Star Wars 2, so that alone will be awesome. And I'm going to enjoy the movie. I'm not saying that like I'm being negative about the movie, that it's not going to be good. My expectations and my excitement have been tamed from that a little bit. To run through our social media handles really quick, you can find us on Twitter at DetBlockAA23pod, on Instagram at Detention_block_AA_23, our Facebook group and YouTube channel, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast, and then you can find us on TikTok at DetBlockAA23. Go follow, subscribe to all those channels as well, and watch for all the content that we release. Again, looking forward to next week. Thank you for joining us for today. Can't wait, Star Wars Day. And with that, as always, may the Force be with you.
Thanks for calling. This is Han Solo, and I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours right here on the Midnight Shift. Something's down.